Hey, all, my name's Andrew Sever, and you're watching Reach the People Visuals.
All right, Andrew.
What's up,
I'm
man?
glad I got to see you today.
I'm glad I got
You're
to see you
looking beautiful.
too. Thank you.
So I guess we should start with just baseline questions.
All right, whatever you need.
So what's your name, brother?
I'm Percival Z. No, I'm kidding. It's Andrew Sevener.
Andrew.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Like, why are you here with us today?
I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I'm a musician.
You're a musician, so you play guitar, you play piano, you sing?
I play guitar and I sing. Try to play piano sometimes. I can play bass if, I need to.
Okay.
Don't ask me to play drums, though.
So you say you're a singer, you're a songwriter, you're a musician. How long have you been playing music?
Oh, man. Unprofessionally, I would say, I started playing guitar when I was around 10.
Okay.
And tried to sing, and I got laughed at quite a bit, But professionally, I would say since I was 15, so I'm 23 now. Was that 8 years now?
So in that 8-year gap between amateur and you would say professional, what do you feel like was one of your biggest breaks in terms of feeling like, okay, I'm actually making strides in this actual pro music game? Like, what's one big event or some big events in your life that you feel like actually showed your hard work paying off? You know
I've had a few big ones. I got to open up for like Diamond Rio, which is a big band. I don't know if y'all know country a whole lot, but Diamond Rio was a massive band, and I got to open up for them, and we played to a really big crowd. And same thing with I got to open up for Tracy Bird and Aaron Tippin, and we played to I think 2,000 people, and then I think the biggest one was The Voice. Got to go on The Voice, and I was picked to go, and I was ended up making 4th place. And then after that, I got to play my biggest show ever with one of my buddies from The Voice. We were in a casino in Louisiana, and we played for 4,000 plus people. And then I got a management company, and now we're releasing new music, and so it's getting better and better and better.
Okay, so let me backtrack, because before you were a pro, you were still recording music. Like, I remember vividly you showing me songs. So it's like you were in the studio, you were putting in time making songs. They were already out on Spotify, Apple Music, everything like that. So what made you feel like maybe The Voice is something that can take me to the next level? I mean, obviously it's a big show. And back in the day when American Idol was relevant.
Oh, yeah.
But what made you really think like, you know what, The Voice, let me go? Because thinking about it in hindsight, like, you went far. It's like, did you have that confidence going in? Like, you were like, I'm going to kill it.
God, no. Dude, it was bad. So, like, the whole reason why is that I was, like, one of the only guys to do it this way for some reason. Everything's got to be difficult with me.
Yeah.
And so the website that I put my music on to send out to all, like, what is it? Spotify.
Services?
Yeah, streaming services and all that stuff. I put it on one website, and they send it out to everybody, and then they pay me every...
What's that website called, though?
Reverb Nation.
Reverb Nation? I know there's a lot of them that...
Yeah, there's like CD Baby and a bunch of other stuff, too.
I've been trying to get into that to put out my podcast audio, and I just haven't really done research. But I know it's like you give it to somebody specific, and then they can distribute it for you.
Oh, yeah.
What were you saying?
So I put my music on there, and like you said before, I've been in the studio, and I recorded a song when I was like a freshman in high school, and all my buddies made fun of me for it, but I still released it. And then I ended up doing a EP, which is like a 3 to 4, sometimes 5-track album. And the whole reason why I did that is I actually dropped out of college to do that. So I dropped out of college, and because I was like, I made it into a nursing program because I was wanting to be a nurse. And I said, you know what? I wrote this song, and I'm going to kick myself for the rest of my life if I don't try it. So I released it, and it did okay. There was nothing happened out of it. It's just I had some original music now, and it was doing pretty good. And then on Reverb Nation, it had this thing it sent me. It was like a notification that said you could skip the line for The Voice. So I can't really go into a whole lot of detail because, with The Voice and stuff, but pretty much the main thing is that you have like 3 pre-tryouts before you get to go to LA. Well, before you get to go to LA, and you have 2 more tryouts, and then you got to go for the blind audition. And so pretty much what this did is that it made me skip the first 2 auditions. And I just had to send in some of my original music. And if they like it, then they call me. If they don't, they don't. So I went in there, and I was like the only one. I think I was one out of like 200,000 people, and I was the one chosen. And it made me feel really good because it was on my original music, you know. And so we got in there, and I got to the 3rd thing, and you know, I was talking to the people that were asking me questions and stuff. And I sang, and didn't hear from them for months. And I was like, damn, this sucks, you know. And we're working at Motorhome Specialists at all this time. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting in an RV one day. I did something else too. There was on 96.3 KSCS.
Yeah, I remember you were on there.
Yeah, that radio station thing. I did a thing where like you send in an original song, and then if you are the most played song out of everybody else, then you get to go to Nashville and play at the Grand Ole Opry or something. And I didn't even get to make it to that. Like I didn't even make it onto like the very first round. And so I got real discouraged, and I found that out that day. And then 5 minutes later, when I saw that, I got an email from The Voice. And honestly, I really didn't want to do it. I didn't really think about doing it. It was just like I'm going to do it and see what happens. You know, if it happens, great. If not, oh well. And so then they flew me out to LA, and I did and I'm sitting there, and you get put up in a hotel with 200 contestants pretty much.
Oh, okay.
And you're listening, you get in groups, and you find your cliques and everything, and you sit there and you listen to everybody, and it's like, what the hell am I doing here? Because there's some amazing singers there.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they just don't make it. And it slowly started whittling down, and then they put us all in a room. They separated us. So it started off like 200 people, and they ended up doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And long story short, I made it to the blind audition. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. Not going to happen. By the time I got up there, I think Blake had like 3 spots left on his team. I think Kelly had 1, and then John and Adam had like 5 apiece. I'm like, for one, I know John and Adam aren't going to pick me.
Yeah.
Especially with the song I was doing.
What did you perform?
I did a Rolling Stones tune called, oh crap, I just lost the name of it.
Okay, when did you perform?
Honky Tonk
Did you
Woman.
not perform original music on The Voice?
Sort of, kind of. It's kind of weird because you do perform original music, but it's not original. So, you know how like everybody in Nashville, pretty much they have songwriters that write songs for them? That's kind of how this was.
Okay.
So, you could choose to do one of your own songs that you wrote, or you can choose a Nashville songwriter song. And they have a catalog. And you only get to do that if you go into the finale.
Yeah.
And so I got to get to the finale, and I got to pick one. And, I thought some of my songs were really, really good, but at the same time, if you pretty much, The Voice owns it. If you
use it on the on the platform.
They pay you for it, obviously, but and I wanted to be able to release my own music on my own time, and I wanted to use this spot to get in with a Nashville songwriter.
Yeah.
Because
you're thinking bigger.
Yeah, because win or lose,
you need something to fall back on.
Exactly. If you have somebody who's an accomplished Nashville songwriter that says, "Hey, man, you made me a few, $100 or whatever on this song. Let's do something else."
Do some more.
So that was my kind of train of thought, and so I ended up doing Thompson Square, I think is the name of the group. They're a little country duo, and they wrote this song called "Where We're Out Raisin," and that ended up being my original song.
Okay. For some reason, maybe this is just because I know your music. I felt like you performed Lie So Pretty. I swear I heard.
Oh, no.
I swear I saw a video of you performing and I heard that song.
Oh, it wasn't Last So Pretty. It was one of my other ones. And what we did is that, so in, where they kind of introduce the people that are coming to the stage, so they have like a little montage and stuff.
Okay.
And so I did one of my songs called When You See Me on the thing, and it was me, my mom, and dad, because we were, music family. We had a band together. That's my first band, was my mom and dad and me. And so we decided, and they said, hey, play one of your original songs. So they videotaped us playing one of my original songs, and they put a small clip of that in the kind of montage.
Okay. Well, you said a couple things that sticks out to me. One of them was that your mom and dad, you come from a musical family. We'll touch on that because I can tell that. But you said that you're in a hotel, 200 contestants, you're around all these people, you're hearing them sing, and you're like, what am I doing here? What do you feel like made you stand out? Because I'm looking up online, type in Andrew Sever, and like, first thing that pops up is like, small town kid, makes it big, something, I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it like that, what do you think you brought to the table? Honestly, because you were something that they saw something special in you. I mean, he chose you, Blake chose you, he wanted you on his team. And I mean, it's a show, so they have to get contestants, but it didn't have to be you, and it was. So honestly, you thinking about it, what do you think was actually that it factor? Because people on Twitter, bro, they were showing you love during the whole thing. Like, random people, like, you don't even know. Like, this dude, Andrew needs to make it, blah, 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 blah. I was like, bro, they're showing him crazy love. So I feel like you captivated, like, you got people feel like they were behind you. So I guess all you needed was really that big spotlight. But what do you think you brought to the spotlight that made them stay? Because I feel like you've retained some of those fans, or most of those fans, after The Voice.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what you hope to do. So what do you think played a big part in you making a difference?
I really don't know. I mean, I think that when it comes to the singing and performing level, I think that most of those artists on that show, my season especially, that 99% of those artists blew me out of the water singing-wise. But I think what I brought to the table was performance. Like, I made sure that every time I performed, it was like you were coming to see me in a concert. And that's what I was trying to do, because, if you just stand in one spot and sing, you may be an immaculate singer like Malin. Mm-hmm. She was an immaculate singer. She put on a performance with her voice, and it sounds great, and the visual effects with it are just stunning, But at the same time, I don't have like her voice. I don't have that, If I just sit in a room and start singing, it's not really a big deal. You could probably go to any country bar in Fort Worth, Texas, and hear pretty much the same thing. But what I like to bring to it is that it's a performance. It's like fireworks, like I want you jumping up and moving and all that stuff. And I think that's what I kind of brought to the table.
And that performance and you being able to bring that type of, honestly, like live show feel to it, I feel like that's due to you actually performing before The Voice. I mean, you were doing shows weekly. By the time, like, I would say in the 6 months before, maybe 8 months, let's extend it, you were doing shows frequently. Like, you were I have this show I need to do. I have this show I need to do. So you were used to that, like, you know what I mean? Being in public, getting some energy and trying to get the crowd involved. And do you feel like you being in a musical family played a big part in you feeling comfortable on stage and talking to people? Because you're a people person, but if you're a people's person, you got to try to find a way to put that in your music. Mm-hmm. And you can put it in your music, but once the camera's on, the lights are on, I just felt like once you got to the big stage, it felt like it was just like effortless, honestly, because I'm looking at you and I'm like, this dude, he's really not phased. Like, I'm telling you my perspective. Like, you didn't look phased at all. Even questions they would ask you, you'd answer normally. Like, you would say the things that you'd normally say. Like, I feel like you were really poised during that whole thing.
Well, remind you, there's a lot of editing that goes into that stuff. Okay. But no, like when it came to like interviews like this and stuff, it was just, I just wanted to talk and just, pretty much for me, it was like, just say a bunch of, say whatever comes to my mind, and whatever they like, they'll put it in the right places. you know. And for the most part, it was whatever I said they put on there. Like they didn't really do a whole lot of editing, and you know, it was when it came to the performances, I'd been playing so many shows, and I was so used. There's no reason to be nervous. The worst thing that could possibly happen is you screw up and they say no. What's the big deal about that? You go back home and you continue what you were doing before, you know, because, you know, life's going to throw you some crap, but if you just get right back up and keep doing what you were doing before, you're fine. One mess up isn't going to ruin your life. And that's kind of what I went into it with. It was just like, man, if I screw up, I screw up. You know, if I don't make it, I don't make it. I'm just going to go back home and go back to work and go back to playing and try to do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like that mindset probably is what kind of took the stress off you, because if you're working before The Voice happens, you had an album out. So you're trying to make music regardless. This is just an opportunity that came up. You took it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I'm still going to try to get to my end goal of, you know, doing music, obviously professionally, but making it a living.
Yeah.
And you said you have a band or you perform with your parents. Do you still perform with them? I know you have another band as well. Who do you do more live performances with these days, like post-Voice?
My band that I have now. Okay. I don't really get to play with my folks a whole lot because after I left the band, they kind of disbanded their band, you know. They do a few acoustic shows now and then, but for the most part, me and my guys, we stay pretty busy. And my mindset is, because my dad was a professional musician. He left home when he was like 14, and he's 66 now. He left home when he was 14 to go on the hotel circuits, because back in the day, you would be able to call a booking agent and you'd be able to put a whole tour of the entire country and play all these hotels.
In the hotel rooms.
Yeah, and you would stay there for a month or weeks, you know. Yeah. And so my dad did all that and stuff. And, you know, so I learned that from my dad and my mom, of course, because she's an amazing singer and she was just a part of it too. She, you know, I think my dad was in his like early 30s when he met my mom, and she was like 18. And she was a singer. They actually met at in the stockyards at Filthy McNasty's. And she went all over the country with him and played and stuff. And then they went local and played all around Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana. Kind of stayed down here a little bit before they retired for a little while. But with all that being said, it's like my dad always told me that you keep you guys busy, they're going to be happy. You pay them well, you pay them often. So that's kind of my mindset. So I try to book as much as I can with my guys because they kind of depend on that paycheck too. Yeah. So like me, I'm not working a day job anymore because I have stuff like this I got to do on a day-to-day basis. I've got meetings I got to attend, all that stuff. My guitar player is a full-time musician. All he does is play guitar. He sings very well, and he picks up, you know, a few acoustic gigs when we're not playing. But for the most part, he relies on what I pay him as a paycheck. My drummer just quit his day job to be in the band. And then we just got a new bass player, and he's a mechanical engineer and super, super smart, but he's an amazing bass player, and he wants to play music and eventually get to it full time. So for the most part, I play with my guys, and we've come to put together a really tight show. A lot of the songs that you'll hear coming up, because we're about to release a lot of new music in 2020.
As in how? You want to do singles? You want to do an album, possibly? I
don't know how we're going to put it out there. Probably because Luke Combs is like blowing up, and he is the hottest thing since George Strait. And the way that he does everything is that, from what I've noticed, he does a single, lets it breathe, another single, lets it breathe, and then releases a small EP with those two singles on it.
With like two more.
Yeah, with two more, and then one of those. So he'll do like 5 songs or something. 2 of those songs are his first 2 singles. Then he'll release a single with that EP and then have 2 extra songs. Yeah. So he has 3 new songs every time he releases something. Then The other 2 songs are his next 2 singles. And he lets those breathe. Once those are done breathing, boom, another EP's out. And then he's got, let's say, 5 songs. Then he'll take those 5 songs and release them afterwards as singles. When he's done with that, as soon as that's done, he'll take the best-selling songs from those 10 songs that he just did.
That go on the album.
Yeah, he'll take like 2 or 3 or 4 of those best-selling songs, put those on an album, along with
other music,
5 or 6 new songs that no one's heard yet, and then release one of the 5 or 6 new songs as a single, and then roll on from there.
Going on. So it's more, not more, but it's strategic for sure.
There's like a whole bunch of different ideas that you can do. It's just finding out which one works for the area that you're going for. If you're going for Texas, single album. Single album. That's it. That's all you got to do. If you're going for Nashville, you have to be strategic.
Yeah, and that's where you're trying to get to. I mean, obviously you're from Texas, but you want to transcend wherever you are and just keep progressing in your music. So transitioning from being in Texas and performing in Texas, who are some of the local guys that you know? I mean, just naming the first person off the top of my head. Austin Upchurch, let's say somebody like him. Would you, I mean, you probably have, but would you incorporate his style into some projects now that you feel like there's more light on what you're doing? Because, I mean, you can bring other people up around you as you're bringing your band members up, you're bringing everybody that's around you up with you. But have you thought about doing any collabs with Austin or any other local country guys?
Well, me and Austin have written quite a few songs together that are on his albums. So, I like to hang out with these guys. Like Cade Holliday's another buddy of mine that is super, super talented. Skylar Payne is like one of the top tier guys in like the local Texas country scene. There's a whole bunch of guys I could go on for about an hour with names of just amazing musicians in this scene right now. As of right now, when it comes to collaborations and stuff, and maybe doing like duets or like whatever the case may be.
Some shows or something.
Oh, we definitely play shows together. Like me, Austin, and my buddy Cameron Hobbs. We've got a show coming up in March at Lola's Trailer Park in Fort Worth. Like we like to play together because Austin has a different crowd than what I'm going for. His is like, I don't know how to explain. It's like punk rock goes country.
No, that's probably perfect.
Yeah, and my buddy Cameron Hobbs, he's more traditional country. Me, I'm more southern rock. So together, like on our own, we still have really good fan bases. We can still pack a venue, all that stuff. Us together, so Austin is getting exposure with my fans and get exposure with Cameron's fans and, everything in between. And then, so we get to be out in front of more people and we help each other build our fan bases. That's what I love about Texas country is that, your brothers and sisters in music doesn't care. It doesn't matter your skin color, doesn't matter your political views. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Is that you're struggling just along with them and we all want to help each other out. So, and that's what I like about Texas country. And we're planning on doing a whole bunch of stuff together, shows together. I've got a show coming up at Blake's Bar in Old Reds in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. We were the first band to ever sell that place out. And it was kind of funny because Luke Bryan and Blake Shelton played there like 2 weeks before us. And Blake came and introduced us to the crowd and everything. And he brought that up, and that was kind of funny. But
that's funny.
We're playing there again, and I'm trying to get either Austin or my buddy Cade to open up for us. So just, we try to help each other out as much as we can. Austin throws me gigs when he can't make them. I throw him gigs when I can't make it. If I have a gig already booked and someone wants to call me for a gig, hey, Austin, come
with me. Yeah.
Just, hey, Austin, come play that gig. I got another gig already. Or, hey, Cade, come play that gig. Or, hey, Cade, can you come open for me? They want 3 hours, but I don't want to play 3 hours,
Yeah. So that same love that, I would call it love, but like you said, you are brothers. trying to make it. That same type of like appreciation, do you feel like you've seen that on the main stage as well? Example, let's say like Austin, he will freely give you opportunities for you to expand and for you to play. Have you seen that the opportunities are easier to get the closer you get to stardom, or less easy to get? Like, well, actually, Blake, has he given you a lot of opportunities post Voice? Because I feel like y'all did have a good relationship. I don't know how personal the relationship is off camera, but I would assume, knowing you, that you left an impression on him. And I don't know how much he could do for you, but how has that relationship with your coach been after The Voice? Like, has he helped you out with anything?
Yeah, he's got me a few gigs at his bars and venues and all that stuff. But at the same time, he's got his own career to run. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got his own stuff to do. It's really hard to get. It's really hard because he's already got his stuff, and he's got guys he's got to answer to too. Mm-hmm. You know, so the hardest thing is that he tries to help me out as much as he can. You know, he'll shoot me a text every now and then, and it's really hard for him though, because he has. If I say, "Hey man, can I come open for a show for you?" He would love it, but he's got to clear it with managers. He has to clear it with his record company. He has to clear it with his publishing company. He has to clear it with the venue that is putting it on, because if they've already scheduled an opener, he's not going to be able to do it. You know, just all that stuff that comes into effect. And when it gets just right down to it, I mean, honestly, not a whole lot of guys are going to want to do that. You know, that's 10,000 times extra work for them. So my thinking is that I haven't asked Blake for anything, and you know, I really want to. Don't get me wrong, and I really want his help. But at the same time, he didn't get a whole lot of help when he started. Why should I?
I guess you're right.
The way I think of it is that if I want it bad enough, I'm going to make it happen, with or without his help.
One of the things I was going to ask you about is you talked about your team. So those are the guys that are musicians on the band. But your girlfriend, I feel like she has played a big part in pushing you forward, being somebody that is going to be ride or die. You know what I mean? She's going to be by your side. Like, she believed in you from the beginning. Like, how do you feel that she has helped you stay level-headed? Has she helped you stay motivated? Has she helped you weed out, you know, hearing people saying this or people saying that? What do you think has been one of
She does all of those things. For one, she's the one that started my merch. Mm-hmm. So that created, you know, a way to get my name out there a little more. And we kind of came up with that together because, you know, she got so tired because, poor girl, you can only hear the same guy sing so many times, and she would go to every single gig. Got to the point where she heard the same show, heard the same shtick, all the same songs, the exact way I sing it every time. And it got to the point where she would be so bored because she'd just seen it in our first year and a half of a relationship. She had gone to pretty much every show. And she would have to sit there and she would finally just like, I'm reading a book. And it made me feel bad, and he felt bad about it too. So we decided we're going to do a merch company, and that gave her something to do while we're at the shows. Yeah. And it built up and built up and built up. So she got my name out there. She's the one that, if I don't really get a big head, I don't like to brag on myself or anything. One of the things my dad always said is that let other people do your talking for you. You know, you just show up, you play your music the way you want to play it, and then if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But you don't say a word about it. And if I do get a big head, she's the first one to smack me back down to earth, literally. And, you know, she's supportive. We're even talking about maybe having to be apart for a little while. Yeah. By a little while, I mean a year or two.
Just because of the travel?
Well, that, and also, you know, my management company that, you know, I'm with, they think it's the best idea for me and the band as a whole to move up to Nashville. And it's really hard. Nashville, for one, is a super, super hard place to live.
It's saturated, I feel like.
Yeah,
well,
it's super
living-wise
saturated.
or music-wise?
Both.
I feel like it's saturated.
Because the rent and stuff is so high. You can get a studio apartment and it's like $1,500, you know, for rent on a studio apartment. They don't even have walls to separate rooms in a studio apartment. It's an open space. And so you got that, and then, you know, you have to get a day job to support yourself there, because if you try to do music, probably like the best paying gig in Nashville for someone who nobody knows, you may be able to get $500 if you play 5 hours. So a lot of gigs that you play are for free in Nashville. A lot of the times, if you do an acoustic gig out there, like, you can be lucky to make $25 to $50 for 3 or 4 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's super hard to live up there. And, you know, with having a girl around, she needs certain things. She needs certain privacies and stuff. But if you got 4 or 5 dudes just going up there, hell, I'll throw a mattress on the ground right next to my buddy, and, you know, we'll have 5 or 6 mattresses and all of our music equipment set up and everything. We don't care. Yeah. You know? And so that's one thing. She's super supportive, and it's like being in a relationship or being married to a musician is one of the hardest jobs, right behind, in my opinion, being a spouse to a military or a first responder. Because, and I say that, I'm not saying that to compare to them because they do way too much for us, but I say that because musicians are gone. If you get on a good road touring band, you're gone for years. And there's times where, like, if you're starting out, if you get that break and you get that record deal in Nashville, you're gone. Just doing radio tours alone for the first 2 years of your life or your career. Because you're going in there and you're getting with radio stations and you're being buddy-buddy with everybody. That's what you just got to do. And then you're playing shows on top of that. Like, Blake was telling me, like, his first year of his career, first 2 or 3 years actually, that he didn't go home at all. He lived in hotels and planes and bus stops and all that stuff. So that's what I have to look forward to. Even with The Voice and getting national exposure, that lasts that long. It's gone. So you have to find ways to stay relevant. You have to find ways to do things, and that's one of those things.
Yeah. Were you surprised at the amount of support that your community showed you? Were you surprised that, were you thinking, because in my head, I'm just be honest with you, it's like, if that amount of support that was shown to you when you're on The Voice could have been shown to you the whole time when you're doing music, brother, you know what I mean? It could be a totally different story. So how did you take that? Did you take it in a positive mindset? Or you're just, it's like a catch-22, it's like, they finally are catching on? Or were you just happy just to see people believing in you?
Man, honestly, I didn't think I'd make it even onto the blind auditions. So with that being said, I never even thought about getting, you know, any of that stuff. But once I did see once I made it on and I kept going through and I just kept making it through and I finally got to the finale, just Alvarado alone probably is one of the main reasons why I stayed on The Voice.
On Twitter, bro.
Twitter?
Crazy.
Yeah, Twitter, freaking the whole Johnson County area, because don't get me wrong, Alvarado is the focal point and everything. The whole Johnson County area, yeah.
I want to give you this. I'm going to throw this to you.
All right.
Show that to the camera right there. Speaking of Johnson County, that goes along with what you're saying about the support.
Yeah, and the whole Johnson County and Alvarado and stuff, like, I was just happy, you know, like, I'm not gonna get mad or, you know, because they didn't support me before or whatever the case may be. I don't look at it like that, because it's not that they didn't support me before, it's that they didn't know me before. You know, you got to think, like, when I played out at Turkey Creek, which is that small little bar in Alvarado. There's a few people that would come out and stuff and from Alvarado that, would listen and stuff, but they wouldn't really take it seriously because they're there to hear somebody else, I'm just some guy that's opening for them, and but that national exposure gave me that opportunity to kind of solidify the Johnson County area, Alvarado, maybe even surrounding counties and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I was just happy, man. I'm not going to be mad about them not knowing who I was or who I am because it's not their fault. I just didn't know. I didn't get out there enough, and The Voice gave me that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So now, post-Voice, obviously you plan to release music, still trying to progress with your bandmates. You're still doing it. You know what I mean? Where do you see yourself in 5 years with this music? Because I feel like with creators in general, they tend to put themselves on a timer. And sometimes you might get caught up in just the journey of it, but you're always like, I want to be at this certain point. And you feel like I need to get there before this happens, or I want to be able to do this when I'm this age. Or how do you feel? Do you feel like you're right on track? Because you said multiple times you didn't even think you would go that far. And now look at you, like where you are now and a year ago. Like, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So a year from now, how crazy do you think that's going to be? Even if it's not something totally different, it's just looking back and see how much has changed and how much you've changed.
It's pretty crazy. And man, I have a really hard time with the, where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years? Because I don't know. I take everything a day at a time, because my whole thing is that I can dream, and if I had my way in 5 years, I'd be as big as Garth Brooks. Obviously, that's kind of where every country musician, you want to be the biggest thing you can possibly be. You want to be selling out stadiums. But Rome wasn't built in a day. You have a lot of things you have to do. You have a lot of bases you have to cover. You have a lot of asses you got to kiss. To speak frank. And so there's still a whole lot of things you got to go through, and I got to go through. I got to go through to get where I want to go. So for me, realistically, in 5 years, I think that I'll be on the verge of possibly getting a record contract. If in 5 years or in that time, anywhere in that time, if I can get a record deal, that's my goal. Mm-hmm. But 5 years, I need to have a record deal. Because if I don't, the music business, I've been told this by a few bigger name people, it's not about the talent necessarily, It's more of how long you're willing to go the distance. Because there's been times, I've always seen something, and I think about this every time. There's like two guys digging, one guy's, just about there to this diamond mine. He turns around while the other guy's he's farther back, but he's still going. If that guy would have given it probably another day, he would have made it. So it all depends on how long you're willing to go. Some guy, heck, I may not make it. I may never make it to where I want to be. I may never get a record deal. I may be 70 years old still trying, but at least I tried. At least I used my entire life going for something I wanted and going for something I loved, and what better life is that? It would be great if I can make it, but for me, it's just, I take it one day at a time, playing shows, doing what I need to do now, getting better at my trade, honing in my sound to where I want it and where I think people are going to like it, and just keep chugging along.
I feel like that's a great mindset. Tell them where you can get, like where they can follow you, where they can follow the journey of the things that you've been speaking about. Like where can they find you at, social media wise?
You could, any social media site, all Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, TikTok. I don't have a whole lot of videos on there, but it's Andrew the number 7 ER music. And you can find me on any social media or any streaming service, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Deezer, all that stuff. just Andrew Sevener, Sevener, and should be on it. And I had fun.
Yes, sir.